Hello, this is Courtney with Ginger Knots, and I wanted to show you today how to make these scrap yarn hexagons that I've posted on my Instagram. It's going to start with whatever color of scrap you have for the center, and I'm using different colors of whatever I have left. And then I chose marble gray as my main color because I have a lot of that left over from other projects. So we're also going to need a pea-size hook, 11.5 millimeters, for this project. And again, most of my blanket is being made of these two colors, but I'm also using red and mustard for the center circles of some of my other hexagons. So let's get started on the hexagons. You are going to do a slip knot. And rather than start with a magic circle like many of you absolutely can, I prefer to start with a chain 4 because this way I don't have to weave in my end, and I'll show you what I mean. So here's my 4 starting chains, and I'm going to slip stitch into that first starting chain to create my circle. Yarn over and pull through both of those. So here is my starting circle, and my first double crochet stitches are going to be worked into that circle. So from here we're going to make our first double crochet by chaining 3. 1, 2, and 3. That's going to count as my first double crochet, and the rest of them will be worked into this circle here. So there will be 11 double crochet around. With the starting chain, that's going to make 12. So you want to make sure you have 12 stitches, and I'm going to crochet around this tail because I don't want to weave it in at the end. I'd rather just cut it off. So rather than sew it in, I'm going to crochet over it so I don't have to deal with it. Especially when you're making a blanket like this that has multiple colors and hexagons, you're going to have a lot of ends to weave in, so anytime you can have fewer ends, that is okay by me. And if you start to take up too much space on your circle, you can always slide your stitches along it and kind of pull on that tail to make it tighter. I'll count at the end to make sure I'm not incorrect on my stitch count, because I've already remade this video twice since I counted wrong the first 2 times. So don't be like me and miscount and move on. So we've got 1, our first starting chain is here, then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, so I need 10, 11, 12, so there's 10, 11, 12. So again, I'm going to count just to triple check. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. For those of you who haven't crocheted out for a long time, it can be difficult to count your stitches because it just looks like a lot of yarn everywhere. So if you separate it by the post and find the space in between them, then it gets a little easier. So now that I know we have 12 stitches, I'm going to slip stitch into the top of my starting chain, which looks like it's sitting on top of this double crochet here. So we're going to insert our hook, grab our yarn, and close that to make a little circle. In round 2, we want to end up with 24 stitches because we're going to put 2 double crochet in each space around. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, and that's going to count as our first stitch. And we are going to double crochet right into that first space. Sometimes when you're working in the round you don't, but this time we certainly are. So double there, so that counts as 2. So we're going to do 2 double crochets into the next bunny ears, as I like to call them with my students. And we're going to work that all the way around. Feel free to stop the video while you're doing this, or go back if you need to, or speed it up if you're sick of watching me do this. I'll be honest with you guys, I painted my nails right before I did this, so hopefully they're all the way dry and I'm not getting it all over the yarn. think we've all been there. So at the end of this one, I'm going to count again because the stitch count is very important for the next round. At the end of this, I should have 24 total double crochets in this round. So let's count before we get to this last stitch. I should have 22 right now. So here's my first two. That's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, and this will be 23 and 24. And then we are going to slip stitch to the top of our chain from the beginning of the round to close, and that is our circle. And so what I typically do from this point is leave it this way for a while. I will cut plenty of yarn to give myself a nice long tail for weaving that end in, and then I will begin with the contrasting color for the rest of the blanket. Now that we have our circle, I think it's a good idea to finish each circle when you get done with it. So now that I've cut my yarn, I'm going to pull that all the way through so that it's not going to come out, and then I'm going to do an invisible edge so that you can have this be nice and finished, but then you won't be able to see the seam when you work around it in the future. So now that I pulled that through, I'm going to lay this yarn down on top of this here. So I'm going to skip the first stitch and insert my hook through the back of this stitch, grab my yarn and pull it through. And as you can see, now that that's through, that yarn is going to kind of lay down on top of that stitch that I skipped. So to do the other side, to lay this down so you can't see it and it looks just like it, we're going to come from under where we finished. This is our slip stitch to join. I'm going to go underneath that and through, grab my tail again and pull that through that loop. So as you can see, you can't really tell that that is our finish. And then when I work around, you can see there's two lines here. There's the stitch that we laid on top of, and then there's the stitch we just made. I'm going to grab them both so that you can't see where your join was. Now I'm not going to start there because I don't like to have too much seaming in one spot, so you can pick any old loop on the outside of this and grab your contrasting color. I weave it around my thumb so that I have a good hold on it, and I'm not going to lose control of it. Keep my tension and pick any space and insert my hook, pull up a loop, and then I'm going to grab just my working yarn, so not my tail, and pull it through once in one chain. So this is going to count as a single crochet. The next stitch over, we're going to do a half double crochet. And then this stitch is going to be one of the points on our hexagon. So each point is going to get a double crochet, a chain one, and another double crochet. So this will allow us to get that nice tall point. And so from here on, we're going to do some repeats. So after your point corner, you're going to do a half double, and then a single, another half double, and then we are to another point. So you can see by doing different stitches, it's going to keep this nice and flat because these have the different heights, and it's going to keep your points nice and pointy so you can see the hexagon. So here is where we did our join. You can see the two lines here. So this is now going to become a corner. So that's going to get a double crochet, a chain one, and another double crochet into that space. So now you can see we have 2 points, and again with our repeats. So we're going to go half double, single, half double, and if you're using UK terms, I believe that would be half treble, double, and half treble. But you can correct me in the comments if I am wrong. Another point, so we have a double crochet, chain 1, and a double, and repeat again. So at the end we should have 6 points. So there's our half double, there's our single, oops, half double, and another point. So there's 3 stitches between the points, and the points have a chain 1 between 2 double crochets. You could stop after this round, but I like to add another round of singles around. I think it gives it better structure, but if you're going to make it into a blanket or something else, then weaving your hexagons together would give it that same structure as well. So it's up to you if you want to do that, but I'm going to show you how. We just did another point here, so again we're back to half double and single and half double and a point in the next space. We're coming to our edge here, so if we've done it correctly we should have one more half double and then join our round. So that is correct, that's what we have. So here is this last half double crochet, and then we are going to join to the top of our chains. So the top of the chains is always sitting at the top of the first actual stitch, so that's right here. We're going to slip stitch to join the round, and then I'm going to chain 1. If you don't want to go on, then you would cut this yarn and weave it in just like we did with the circle, but I'm going to do a single crochet row around, so this counts as a stitch. So into the next stitch, single. In these spaces I do a single crochet, chain 1, and another single to again keep that nice and pointy. And then moving on, we're going to just single crochet in every stitch around, and just adding that increase on the corners. So there should be 4 single crochets between your corners. No, I didn't chain 1. See? Gotta pay attention. Oh wait, yes I did. See, I'm losing my mind over here, everyone. I did it. And working my way around to another corner. So single, chain 1, and single. And we're working in our bunny ears around. And I'll show some pictures, and you can also find this pattern in my blog with pictures to help you along the way. But please let me know if you have any questions on how to do this. I will have a separate video showing you how to weave these together into a blanket, but like I mentioned, you can really make quite a lot of things with weave together hexagons. I think the most common will probably be a blanket, and this would be a really squishy one because of the type and size of the yarn. And that's the good thing about using such a big yarn and big hook, is that it works up really quickly. Almost done, I believe. I hope. Nope, I think we're about halfway. It starts to take a little longer as we get around. Oh, I fibbed. We are done. So we're going to join our round now that we're done. So we started our single crochets over here, and I went ahead and did a single crochet into that last stitch. This is where we chained up 1, and there's our first actual single crochet stitch right here. So I'm going to slip stitch into the bunny ears that are on top of it, and then I'm going to cut a nice long tail. I couldn't find my pretty scissors today. And then we're going to do the same thing to close this one out that we did the last time. So we're going to pull that yarn through, and we're going to skip this first stitch here and work under this one. So insert your hook underneath that one and yarn over, pull it through, and then coming up from underneath of our slip stitch right here, pull that through there. And then it looks looks just like anything else. So now you've got a finished hexagon.